Hello students. So in our previous module, we've discussed about motion. And when an object, when it moves, the next thing that we want to know is that how much distance has been covered by that particular object. Or in simple words, how far that object has moved. So this module is about the different ways by which we can measure the distance. Or we can so say the total length of the path which is traveled by the object and the units of measuring the length. Now students, when I'm saying distance, then what do you all think? What is this distance? Yes, it's a physical quantity, but then what is distance? We've often used this term when we say that the distance between my school and my home is some X kilometers. Or we say that the distance between the moon and the earth, it is some Y thousand kilometers. But then what is this distance? Well, to answer this question, let us take a simple example. So here is a toy car and it moves from this point to this point. Now, if somebody asks you that how far this car has moved, then how will you find that out? Well, to find this out, you would probably just place a scale over here like this and measure the value. So here, what are you actually measuring? Yes, so you're measuring the length of the path, and it is this word, that is the length, which we all use for representing the distance. So distance is defined as the total length of the path which is traveled by an object from its initial position to the final position. And so in this case it comes out to be 15 centimeters. And this 15 centimeters is the length of this line which tells us how far the toy car has moved or how much distance the toy car has covered. But now I have another interesting question to you. Suppose this car, it does not move along a straight line. Rather, it moves somewhat like this in a zigzag manner. Now, if I ask you that how far this car has moved, so what will be your answer? Are you going to make use of the same centimeter scale once again? Well, this is the problem which I want you to ponder upon. Because so far what we've done is, or what we've studied is, that in a straight line path, the length of the line tells you the distance, how far the object has moved. And this length is usually represented by a number which is followed by a unit. Now in simple language, distance is defined as the amount of space between two places or between two things, or you can say simply between two points. And what does the unit mean then? Or how can we measure the length of an object if it moves randomly in a zigzag path, just like the way it did in this particular case? Or let's say even in the circular manner. Well, let's answer these questions one by one. So first let's discuss about units. So students, every physical quantity has got some standardized unit. And now you're going to ask me, what is the standardized? Well, the word standardized, it means that the thing which we all follow or which is designed in a standard manner, as for example, you've seen the blue and the green colored dustbins, right? You've all seen those dustbins on the roadsides. Okay, so what does this color coding represent? Yes, so the blue color dustbin, it represents or it is meant for non-biodegradable wastes. While the green color dustbin, it is meant for biodegradable wastes. So what do you infer from this example? Well, we can infer that blue and green colors are the standardized colors which are used for representing non-biodegradable and biodegradable wastes respectively. And this color coding, it is followed all over the world. So the word standardized is something which is designed in a standard manner which is to be followed by everyone and everywhere. Now let us get back to our topic, that is length. So length is a physical quantity, or length is merely a quantity whose standardized unit is meter. As for example, if we have the steel rod and the length of this rod after measuring it by using a scale, if it comes out to be 1 meter. So this is quite a long rod, and that's why it's easy to measure it by using a meter scale. But how will we measure the length of a rod if it is of a much smaller length, like the case of this small sized rod? Well, to measure this, I have to use a quantity which is smaller than a meter. And for this, let us divide this meter scale into many such small divisions. Now, here I want you to know that these 100 small divisions, they make up 1 meter. So a centimeter, it means 1 upon 100th of a meter. Or we can say that 100 centimeters, they make up 1 meter. But students, what if I have to measure something which is even less than this 1 centimeter? How would I measure that? Well, for this, I have another smaller unit, and that is 1 millimeter. And 10 millimeters, they make up 1 centimeter. Now if I ask you that how many millimeters they make up 1 meter, so what would your answer be? It's a simple mathematical calculation. Okay, so let's just revise what we've studied. So 10 millimeters, they equal to 1 centimeter, and 100 centimeters, they equal to 1 meter. So now using this particular relation, these two sets of equations, we can say that 1 centimeter, it equals to 10 millimeters. So which means 100 centimeter will be 10 into 100, that is 1000 millimeters. Thus 1000 millimeters, they make up 1 meter. Simple? Okay. Now this is about the smaller lengths, which can be calculated in meters or centimeters or millimeters. But the question is, how can we measure the length between two cities? As for example, if you want to travel from Kashmir to Kanyakumari, then this length is quite big, right? So how will you measure this long stretch of length? Well, I'm sure you all know that it is not convenient to measure this large length in terms of meters. And for measuring this large distance, we need some bigger unit. So what's that bigger unit? So here I'm going to introduce to you one more unit of length, and that is kilometers. So 1 kilometer, it equals to 1000 meters. So the distance between the two cities or states, it is usually measured either in kilometers or miles. Now I have a question for you all. Okay, so tell me that if the length between two cities is 33,62,000 meters, then how will you express it in kilometers? Well, we can convert this meter into kilometers by a simple mathematical calculation. So students, we know that 1000 meters, they equal to 1 kilometer, right? Okay. So this 33,62,000 meters, this will be multiplied by a factor of 1 upon 1000, which comes out to be 3,362 kilometers. So the length between the two cities comes out to be 3,362 kilometers, which is approximately the distance between Kashmir and Kanyakumari by road. So students, what have we inferred from these examples now? Well, we have inferred that the length can be measured in millimeters, centimeters, meters, and the larger unit of length, which is kilometers, which we actually use for measuring large distances. But always keep this thing in mind that the standard unit of length is meters. Now, before we proceed, let us make a quick note of the metric prefixes. What's a metric prefix? A metric prefix is a unit prefix that precedes a basic or the SI unit of measure, and it is to indicate a multiple or fraction of that unit. Now, each prefix has a unique symbol that is prepended to the unit symbol. So the prefix kilo, for example, it may be added to the meter to indicate multiplication by 1000. So 1 kilometer is equals to 1000 meters. So kilo means multiplication by 1000. Likewise, deca means 10 times, hecto means 100 times, kilo means 1000 times, deci means 1 upon 10 times, centi means 1 upon 100 times, and milli means 1 upon 1000 times. So this was all about the metric system and the units. Now the next question which I had asked you was that how can we measure the length of an object if it moves randomly in a zigzag manner like this or in a circular manner like this? Well, we can measure the length of the zigzag path or the length of a circular track by simply making use of a thread or a string like this. And we can do this by placing the thread over the zigzag line, make marks on the thread at the starting and the end points, and now stretch it to make it straighten, and then simply find its length by placing it along a meter scale. So that's how the length of a zigzag path can be calculated. And similarly, we measure the length of the circular path by placing the thread along the circular track like this, and then straighten it and measure the length traveled by the object by placing the thread along a meter scale. So with this, I end this module, and in our next module, we are going to discuss about moving things